2025, and I call this Elizabeth School District Business Session to order at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Olson?
Here.
Director Powell?
Here.
And Director Waller?
Here.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I move to amend the agenda and remove Jason Robinson's non-renewal letter from consent items and table it until our next meeting.
Second. Can I ask for potential can you remove all separation? Can you just remove 9.3 completely then?
You can.
I think we should.
I'm okay
If we're
with
gonna-
that.
Yeah, instead of cherry picking, I think we should remove them all.
Okay. All right, so.
Are you okay with that, David? Sounds like she's okay with removing 9.3.
Do we need a different
Completely.
motion?
9.3.
Yeah.
Brad?
Can you just restate your
Sure.
withdrawal and restate it? Thank you.
Okay, I withdraw my original amendment request, and I move to amend the agenda to remove item 9.3 from our consent agenda and table it for the next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
I don't agree with it. That's my discussion.
Okay.
I originally was thinking the same thing, but I have reason to think that we should just proceed with it at this point. So that's my discussion.
Okay, so I guess at this point, if there's no further discussion, can I get a roll call?
Okay. Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Nay.
Director Waller?
Nay.
Okay, so the motion to amend the agenda and remove item 9.3 has been approved. Okay, so next up, we have executive session.
Please approve the agenda as amended.
Okay.
So another motion, please.
Oh, okay. I move to approve the agenda, the amended agenda as presented.
Second.
David?
Yeah.
Yeah, and roll call.
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Okay, motion approved. Thanks, Brad. All right, our first item on the agenda is executive session 5.1. I move to enter executive session per Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024B regarding current legal cases with the district, with an attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions, and Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-4024E regarding Independence Classical Academy up, I move to approve the minutes from the April 7th and April 15th meetings as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, we have communication. First up, board member reports.
I just wanted to say that I went to the awards banquet, the awards ceremony, I guess it wasn't really a banquet, and so did David. And it was very nice. Last time we talked about the STARS Awards, so that was cool. This one was academic awards. There was a bunch of scholarships issued that were amazing, and a bunch of department awards, and all of the 4 levels in high school of honor roll, and they were all recognized. And so it was a wonderful night to see all of those kids being celebrated. So just wanted to mention that. And looking forward to the graduation that's coming up here in a couple weeks. Yes,
I'm gonna be able to make that one.
yes.
Unexpected family issues have come up, so.
Oh,
Okay, anybody else have anything they wanna talk about?
Oh,
Okay, all right, you're up, Dan.
Okay, first I want to draw your attention, board members, to the class size report. It's in your packet. This is your policy, IIB-R-1 requires that this be provided to you twice a year. It outlines class sizes, it outlines the ratio across all of our schools. I won't go into any specific detail on it. It does outline specific classes and what class sizes are. Our class sizes are actually quite sweet and 95% of our classrooms. So even at the high school, our class sizes are very low. So again, that's being provided to you according to your policy. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. Do want to let you know we had a great job fair on Saturday. Kim Moore led that for me. I was at my daughter's baby shower. I think we ended up with potentially 6 new employees, teachers from that job fair event. And so really appreciate all of our administrators who gave up their Saturday morning to do that job fair. And then graduation, you mentioned already Saturday, May 24th at 10 a.m. At the high school. We're excited and look forward to seeing as many of you there as possible. So I'll stop there. I know we've got a long agenda tonight.
So, next up, we have public comment. Okay, first up, we have Nancy Wiswell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just push
Yeah.
the button and
Until
until
the
you see
light
numbers on the
comes
front.
on.
Hold it down, yeah.
Yep.
Hold it down until it comes,
Big
you see numbers.
Follow the instructions.
no, still not.
Okay.
So my name is Nancy Wiswell.
Hold the button down on that mic until you see numbers on the
Down here
screen.
or up?
No, down below.
Do you see numbers?
I see numbers.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think the
Yeah.
That
light
one just doesn't work.
The
The
light
red
on
one,
the front
yeah.
top doesn't.
Okay, all right, sorry. So my name is Nancy Wiswell, and I've been a resident of Elbert County for 45 years. When I came here in 1980 with my family, there were no charter schools. There was no school choice. Independence Classical Academy is an excellent option for school choice in Elbert County and the surrounding areas that will offer a classical, tuition-free charter school in our area. I am here to ask you to approve an extension to ICA to continue operating. The school needs more time to locate a good facility that will be sufficient for their educational needs. There are many families that have signed up to put their students in this excellent school, offering back-to-basics curriculum. ICA will include teaching virtues, including respect, responsibility, citizenship, self-control, integrity, cooperation, and perseverance, which supports values that parents teach at home and that I would want support for my kids. This is just the type of school that I would have wanted to put my children in for their education, and actually I would love to have my grandchildren here. This is, I cannot imagine the disappointment of the parents who have signed up for their kids. They say they are upset about their school choice not opening this year, and I know I would be too. Their new headmaster, Mrs. Turner, has everything ready to go for this next school year except for the facility. They just need more time to find the right one. Please approve the one-year extension for ICA to start up next fall and give them the chance to offer an excellent school choice for those students who have enrolled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Lisa Beach.
Yeah, give me just a minute. It doesn't like my distance.
Apple Watch? Apple phone alarm?
You can
Okay.
just watch me struggle.
Yeah, go.
Okay. I wanted to address the situation that unfolded last week with the newly hired principal at Running Creek Elementary. I do have a child that attends there. We saw the community turn on the candidate based on rumors and what they have dug up online. In the past 2 years, members of the board have supported and modeled hateful behavior towards people that do not fit the demographics of the majority of your voters. We have seen that in the selection of books you choose to ban, in how you talked about the content of books in board meetings, in book reviews, your emails, district-wide newsletters, and press interviews. We have also witnessed the support of bullying by how you either participated in or stood by while board members spread outright lies and misinformation about community members using their first and last names only to promote an attitude of hate against them. This has shown people that it's okay to behave in this manner, as you are role models for our community. We have heard you refer to certain lifestyles as not belonging in any school, not wanting it out there at all, and as evil trans ideology. If you want our community to show respect to others, you have to be the ones modeling the behavior you wish to see. I don't know how anyone is surprised with what happened last week with the culture you actively promote. I would also like to encourage a no vote on ICA's extension tonight. We have seen that our community is not interested in this particular charter and that the district cannot afford the expenses it would take to get it up and running. I encourage you to revisit this when we have enrollment numbers that support the need of another school. Financially, it does not make sense, not now or next year. We're supposed to be building our reserves right now, not taking away from them. Only $300,000 is not the buffer we need for this amount of financial risk. As the woman before me spoke, the citizenship features that she discussed that a classical school would teach, my kids have gotten for many, many years in Elizabeth School District by every single teacher in this district. That is nothing different than what we currently offer. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Maggie Weatherby.
Going? We're set, okay. I'm going to talk about common sense because it's something we don't have in common in this world today. The pamphlet Common Sense was written by Thomas Paine and published in January of 1776. Paine wrote very persuasively about American independence. To him, it was simply common sense that the colonies strive for their independence. In our most recent school board election and selection of a new superintendent, most Elizabeth residents voted for candidates that would bring back positive values and common sense to our school district. It just makes common sense to remove offensive books from school libraries. It just makes common sense to restrict the use of cell phones in our classrooms. And it also just makes sense to ensure that we have many educational choices for parents and students to choose from. The most recent addition being the Independence Classical Academy. And that just makes common sense to add classical education to our list of educational offerings in the Elizabeth School District. So I would respectfully ask this board to vote for the extension for Independence Classical Academy and its opening in August of 2026. And perhaps we should write our own 47-page pamphlet explaining the benefits of a classical education. And one of us could be another Thomas Paine, who knows? Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Katie Carrico. Hopefully I pronounced that okay.
Hi, I'm Katie. I emailed you all today, so now you gotta put a face to a name. I just wanted to share my heart with you. I am a mother of 4 kids. I have 2 boys that have already graduated from high school, both from completely different schools. And I have a daughter at Elizabeth High School, and then my youngest is a 4th grader who I am homeschooling this year. She did her first 3 years at Running Creek, and gradually things just got worse and worse for her. And sadly, I just saw a lot of kids who are really struggling and have a lot of pain in their lives, and it made it just not a safe place for my daughter to be there. And I had to pull her out. That's what a mother does. So this year has been hard because I am working and I am homeschooling, and I really was looking forward to a new option. I was really looking forward to Independence opening up in the fall. And I was very disappointed when that didn't work out. But I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And so we are looking for other options. And that's what I love. I love that we have options, that we have the ability to choose, whether it's public school or a charter school or private school. And so my encouragement to you is that, yes, there are parents that do want a classical education for their kids. That is very much the type of education we have been homeschooling my daughter with this year. And I would like for that to continue. And I know that it's such a big deal in the homeschool community to do a classical education. And honestly, parents, when their kids get to high school, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't possibly homeschool my kid through high school. It's very intimidating. So if we had a school here that was already a classical education, I bet you all of those homeschool parents are like, that's where we're gonna send our kids. That's what they're used to, and that would just be a natural fit for them. So, no script here, just speaking from the heart. Please, please. There are families that really need another option. I don't want to drive to Douglas County. I don't have the time to do that. I need something that's here in Elizabeth that can offer that. So, thanks.
Thank you. Next up, Jason Geek?
Geek.
Geek, okay, I'm sorry.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Elizabeth. I'm having kids that are growing up in this community. Been in Elbert County most of my life, and I have a high schooler that just completed Longmont High School. I was so excited to hear that Elizabeth was going to be banning cell phones in the high school. I thought that was going to be the best thing from our kids. I don't know one parent of any teenager that says, boy, I wish my kid had more time available on their cell phone. That doesn't happen. It's very clear. We've run this experiment for a long time. We know that these things are designed to be addictive, and that's what they call their clients, is users. They're users of their product, because that's what they're designed to do, is to get their kids to, or get their clients, or get their users to focus only on that screen. And us as adults, we should be able to recognize bad things for our kids and protect them as best as we can from it. In the Boulder County, they're implementing a similar program, cell phone ban, bell to bell. I know it's not going to be popular with the kids, but sometimes we have to do things that are unpopular with our kids to do what's best for them. They are there to get an education. They are there to focus on what the teacher is trying to get done. If we want more out of our teachers, we got to give them attentive students to actually teach and for them to be a part of. So I'm here tonight because I heard that you guys were considering not implementing the ban next year, and I'm just asking you to keep that ban in place. I think we would, as a community in general, would benefit so much from it, and I know like my teenager would have been so much better off in high school without her cell phone. So please keep the ban in place for next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Angeli Jimenez? I'm sorry. Jimenez. Did I pronounce her first name right?
Angeli, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to come talk to you guys about the phone ban. I'm a junior at EHS. I read this book, The Anxious Generation, and it really spoke to me personally. As a high school student, it's really easy to get lost and be using your phone all the time. I mean, everybody's always using it. That's the way we communicate, social media, texting, that's all we ever do. Fortunately, this year I got the opportunity to get an internship as a Spanish teacher and at the elementary school. If there's one thing that this has taught me is that phones are nothing but horrible. Students cannot get off of them. They're the reason why students are failing. The majority of the part, because students are always just on their phones, social media, texting my friend, oh, let me text my mom, oh, let me text this, and it's like, well, you're supposed to be focusing. And they're like, well, it's because my parents are texting me, it's because this and this and this and this. Well, that's not what we came here to do. You come here to school to learn. You come here to school to open your mind and be creative, except phones are doing quite the opposite. They tell you that phones will help you to be more creative, to be more social, but if you ask any student, including myself, I am extremely nervous to be here talking to you guys because I don't feel like I've had enough practice, or I'm always on my phone, so I'm never out there actually socializing and talking to people. Reading this book, the statistics from 2010 to 2019 have revealed that more than 50% increase in depression and anxiety among U.S. teenagers. Simultaneously, the suicide rate experienced a significant uptick, rising from 48% from those from ages 10 to 19, and 131% from girls from ages 10 to 14. I don't know how many of you guys are happy to hear that, but I don't think that we want to see phones being used the wrong way into comparing, or they just damage mental health in general. I think the school could do a much better job by banning them. I mean, personally, obviously it would suck not being able to be on my phone, but it feels great not being on your phone for a whole 2 hours and be like, wow, I got so much done and I have actually paid attention in class. So I just personally think that you guys should take that into account and hopefully ban phones next year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela, you got a career in speaking.
Yes. Next up, we have Adam Payton.
Hi.
Hi.
Dan has the full account of everything I have to say. I'm going to try to abbreviate as much as possible. I began teaching in 2011, which means that I am marking the end of the 14th year of my teaching career. I have never known a year of teaching without smartphones in my classroom, and once upon a time, I might have been the defender of cell phones in a class. There seemed to be endless potential to the technology, and each student eventually had one in their pocket, giving them constant access to a wealth of information, the likes of which I could have only imagined having at my disposal when I was in high school. As a teacher, I imagined a world where cell phones were tools for research and education, and I tried to hold on to those beliefs and ideas for as long as I could. How naive I feel about the younger version of myself now, as I come before you and make the case for banning cell phones, earbuds, smartwatches, and other forms of personal wearable technology in my classroom and our schools. The potential of cell phones has not disappeared, but that potential is not what current students are using their phones for. They have grown up with the games, social media, instant gratification, and the distraction of the device in their pocket. Our students are targets of industries and businesses that are masters of manipulation, relying on the same techniques found in casinos to isolate and manipulate their customers to continue to swipe, listen, and tap. I can ban the use of phones in my class, and I will be doing so next year. But I ask that the board and our community understand that this feeling is not a minority of teachers in our district. In a survey my colleagues and I sent to EMS and EHS teachers last week, 91% of teachers report cell phones being a distraction in their classroom. 72% of teachers reported cell phones and wearable technology negatively affecting their students' academic performance. 90% responded that wearable technology negatively impacted student engagement. 65% responded to having discipline issues related to student technology. And finally, 80% of our respondents supported banning cell phones next year. We want our students in our district to be successful, but our current cell phone policy creates obstacles to their success. Teachers that ban phones on their own face blowback from students and parents because it is seen as an individual teacher decision rather than a building or district policy. If we're going to improve our environments and of our schools, we must show a united front to our students and our community. Let's do what is best for our students and help guide them away from these negative habits and connections that keep them from being the kids that we know they can be. Right on time.
Thanks,
Okay, next up we have Lindsay Cutter.
I do not want to follow you.
Hi,
I'm Lindsay Cutter. This is my 22nd year teaching. I have 4 kids also in the district, elementary, middle school, and high school. I'm here to talk about, excuse me, the cell phone policy. What? Excuse me. Once we did implement it, I saw a major shift in socialization from students during lunches. In class, I didn't have to worry about managing the cell phone caddy, kids in the middle school trying to steal each other's and haha jokes, just so many different stressors that cell phones have. I do believe that we should allow students to carry them for emergency purposes, like my elementary kids. I'm a single parent, so I need to have my kids to be able to reach them on the buses after school. I would suggest letting kids, if there's a track meet canceled, that they're able to get those cell phones out, text their parents, let them know. So learning how to manage those phones properly. In the classroom, I don't think it's of use. Yes, I've used them. I'm a science teacher, so we go out and shoot off rockets. So we videotape the rockets or watching my snakes eat. So managing appropriate use of it, but then letting students just put it away. They understand. Since that ban, it has completely changed. I haven't had so many kids getting in trouble for having cell phones out, not being on task. Yes, there's students that don't finish their work, that don't want to choose to do their work, but I don't have that headache with the cell phones. I believe that giving kids at the high school time, maybe during lunch, just that independence as they get older to help them manage that. But I would say overall in classes specifically, I like the ban of the cell phones just because we're there to learn and to help teach. Also modeling myself, I use my cell phone constantly, whether I'm communicating with my teachers, I'm doing other work as they're working, so I'm managing that as well, but letting them see the appropriate use of it, I think is really important for kids to learn as they become adults. So that's where I would like the ban of cell phones, but within reason and with some caveats, some teacher discretion, just for safety purposes, that sort of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Next up, we have Megan Silverthorne.
Good evening, directors. I just want to, I actually came here tonight with the book. And I don't know Miss Menace. I never talked to her before in my life, but please read the book. I'm not even halfway through and it's terrifying. So that's not what I came to talk to y'all about, but I just thought it was too good to pass up an opportunity to plug that book. So please read it.
Thank you for doing that because I couldn't remember the name of the book.
Yes,
So thank you.
I'll put it up so you guys can see it. I'm a resident of Douglas County, so I picked it up from the library. I had to wait weeks and weeks for it because everyone wants to read this book. It's amazing. So what I do want to talk to you about is I'm on the board of directors for Independence Classical Academy. And some of you know I previously served on the board of directors for Douglas County School District from 2009 to 2017. And during the last 2 years I was there, excuse me, I was the board president. And all the time I was there, we had a number of schools, charter schools that came through that were approved, some that were not approved, and some that did have to have a delay. And so I want to talk about 4 of those schools briefly for you. One is somewhat famous for different reasons, the STEM charter school, and that's unfortunately famous for a couple of reasons that are negative, but their beginnings were a bit inauspicious. They came to us and they were not quite ready to open. So we approved them, but we said you need to wait 1 year, and you can see now that they are successful by many measures, and they want to replicate, in fact. So that's a success story. There's another school that you may recognize, the Lehman School of Excellence. They also had to delay because they had a facility issue. They could not break ground on time, and so we as board directors said you need to wait a year. There were 2 other schools, the Apex School and the Milestone Academy. They had continual issues meeting their enrollment targets. It was not a facility issue, and they never got to the point where they could open. One asked us to withdraw, another one, they actually just kind of left it up to us. It was sort of unfortunate, but we ended up saying, you know, we're sorry, you cannot continue either. And so there's a number of paths forward, but providing that delay allows the school to chart its own destiny, to say, you know, with more time available, we can solve our facility issues. We can encourage our folks in the community to choose us as an enrollment option. And we've heard from parents that they want that additional option. Even parents who don't intend or maybe may not intend to enroll their students with us, they like having that option, and they would perhaps choose us. And so I'm just asking that you consider that for us, that you vote yes on our extension, so that we can have that opportunity to build those continual relationships with our community, and that we have an opportunity to show you all in the fall of 2026 that we can be a successful school. So thank you all so very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay, I think that's all.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Got a break, David?
Okay, so next up we have consent items. So I move to approve our amended consent items.
Second.
Any new discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
No.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Director Waller.
Aye.
Okay, next up, we're going to action items. So our first action item is the repeal of policy DD, funding proposals, grants, and special projects.
And do you want Francisca to come up to answer any questions? She was here
Francisca
for
and
this, just in
Jason.
case.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. You guys both, Jason,
Sorry,
you wanna
before you
come on
get
up
there,
too?
I didn't know.
Yeah. Let me also introduce Jason Henry. He's our new CFO in the district, and so welcome, Jason. We're glad to have you, and
Justin.
introduce you. Justin.
You've done it all today.
He's going to have to change his name, Jason, because I cannot. Yeah, he's
Well,
kind of
welcome,
used to my
Justin.
kids. And my kids know whatever name I call them, just respond.
Oh, I
so
totally
sorry.
get it. Yeah. Sometimes even
Sorry,
the dog name
Justin.
gets in there.
My mom does it too.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Sorry to
All right.
interrupt.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so, do we want to talk about them first, or just answer questions as we go?
I'd ask questions. The first ones are appeals that are no longer needed, the
Yeah.
first 5 items. So these are, our attorneys looked at them. They're policies that this district at some point put into place. They're not required by law. They're not recommended either by the Colorado Association of School Boards. So we're recommending they be repealed.
Okay, so first up, I move to repeal policy DD, funding proposals, grants, and special projects.
Second.
Okay, discussion. My first question. So, you kind of addressed a little bit why we're repealing it, but this mentions like notification of the board of funding sources such as grants. I think it's important that the board know
Yeah.
the grants, where they're
Absolutely.
coming from, so we can research them before we approve them, because a lot of times they come with strings.
Mhm.
So how will, if we repeal this policy, how is that notification gonna happen?
This being my
First day, sorry. Hot
fifth
seat.
day in my
First meeting.
long tenure.
First time in the hot seat.
Want to let Fran get into the details of that. I have reviewed all of the policies literally this morning, and didn't have any major pushback or legality concern from my point of view. But the actual meat and potatoes of this, I'll have Fran
Yeah,
kind
so
of
when
address.
we looked at that, DD and DDR, the process that's outlined in there is not how the district does it, and, you know, as you can see by the dates, like, it hasn't been updated in many, many years.
Long time.
So, so there was really, and then when we compared it to, the policies, the two different ones that you look at normally, they didn't have anything. So it was basically, I mean, obviously it could be completely rewritten if that's something you would like to look at, but the way it is written, there's nothing in there that we currently practice. So
Okay.
that's why, and then, you know, we verified with Brad to find out what he recommended to repeal it, so, that's where that came from.
I think you bring up a good point. I mean, certainly, if you'd rather not repeal this, we can come back to you with modifications to make sure that that piece is still there.
Or we can just,
Put
maybe
it
it's
in
a
another
process
policy.
issue, and
Yeah.
when the budget comes for,
Mhm.
you know, review and approval, we just
Yeah.
have a list of the grants that are proposed as a part of that?
Sure.
And we can also look, that was comparing to CASB and class,
Uh-huh.
and we worked on that, but,
Okay.
I think we can also look at D49 or a school like that might have a
Okay.
policy in place that we could,
Okay.
I could pull and find
Okay.
some
Yeah.
ideas for.
I'm happy to
And
take.
another thought would be too, that sometimes some districts do that, they don't have it as a policy, but they have it as a procedure.
Okay.
So, you know, that might be, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
something.
I mean, the grants page is part of your budget document that you ultimately approve. I think you have every right to say, I'd like to know what's included in there and what are we considering. So I'm happy to take the direction that you want a policy or practice to come back. Maybe it's amending another policy. We can certainly look at that between now and the next meeting and find if there's an existing policy where that language can be inserted. I think it's a good point. So if you want to repeal this, I'm happy to take that direction and bring something back to you at the next meeting with that language. I think that's important.
I think it'd be good to just check and see what else is in there and
Yeah.
just, you know, make sure there's something written somewhere. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
and this is, I mean, the last time this was amended was in 1999, so it's a couple of years old, and we probably should update it regardless. So I would say let's
Thanks for
table it
catching
until
that.
next time, or I would say let's not repeal it, let's look next time and just look at it next time and see if we can put the language into something else, and then decide if we repeal this and amend another one or
If you want
something.
to pull that motion, then I'm happy to take that direction and come back to you either with this modified or another location where that can be inserted, and then you can repeal it at that point in time. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
So do we need to formally?
So I will withdraw my motion. And the next one kind of falls in line with that because it's a regulation DDR, funding proposals, grants, and special projects. But it looked like it,
Do you need to table and vote on that? You withdrew your motion to approve it.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
then
if there's
this
no
is-
motion, then there's
Then
no
we don't
vote.
have
No
to table.
regulation.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So, all right.
Do you want to repeal DDR? This actually gets into some pretty minute detail. Again, it's not been updated since '99.
Mhm.
If you'd like to leave DD, we can come back and then try to find the appropriate place to outline that.
Yeah.
These are definitely outdated and haven't been followed, so.
Okay.
But they might give us ideas for language for
Yeah.
what we want to amend. so.
Right, but I mean, if you repeal it, we can use it as a
Oh.
kind of a basis for making sure that language is in a policy. It's up to you. If you want to table this one, that's fine too.
Do you want to table this one and address it with the policy, or do you want to repeal the regulation and then let's recreate it when we?
My personal preference is if we're going to have a regulation that goes with something, I would like to deal with them together.
Together,
Okay.
okay.
I'm fine with
Okay, so there's no motion on this one then?
Okay. Okay, so the next one was the repeal of regulation DI-R-1 expenditure review process. So I move to repeal regulation DI-R-1 expenditure review process.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
This one definitely has a lot of procedures that probably haven't been followed by the district for many, many years, so,
Yeah. Fax orders, y'all do a lot of those?
Yeah.
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 Break out the fax machines, a copy
dear.
machine. So, any further discussion on this one? Okay, all right. So can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Director Waller.
Aye.
Okay, and next up is repeal of regulation DI-R-2, credit card and local vendor charge account usage. I move to repeal regulation DI-R-2, credit card and local vendor charge account usage.
Second.
Cool. Discussion?
Fran, we have district procedures
Yeah, so
on
we
the P
have a
card.
P card
Yeah.
policy so that every employee has to sign in order to use a P card. And I'm sure we can provide that for you
Yeah.
guys to see what it says, but,
Okay.
it has every, every
Mhm.
detail of what's allowed, what's not allowed,
Okay.
what you do, what the process is and
Okay.
everything, so.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that in DJA.
Mhm.
So I guess we can cover that a little bit more in that one.
Yeah, so we're saying most of this stuff's covered under this.
Yeah, on the P card policy, yep.
Okay.
Okay. So, if there's no further discussion, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
And Director Waller.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, we have the repeal of regulation DI-R-3, cellular phone usage. So I move to repeal regulation DI-R-3, cellular phone usage.
Second.
And discussion.
So this appears to be, especially
Oh.
considering
Very
all the
old,
comments,
yeah.
yeah, this is a 2003 policy for the district apparently providing phones to the staff and to
Yeah,
the
the
teachers.
district had phones that they
Yeah.
would give to staff for field trips.
Okay.
That was before everybody had a
Before
cell phone.
that's what I was gonna say, so now,
The brick.
you know,
So
it wasn't
that's why
common for
it's-
people to
it's
have it,
just
so,
not- no,
yeah,
it's-
so,
Yeah, it has nothing to do with using phones in class.
right. So I think we obviously do not need a policy that, regulates how we buy them for you, because we don't,
Yeah,
sorry.
because we don't. Yeah.
Because we ain't.
So.
Probably bricks back then.
Yeah, I know, here's this
Flip
big old
phone.
honking thing, yeah.
the big.
So, I would vote to get rid of that one.
Okay.
And we'll be, dealing with the other cell phone things later, but this one is obsolete.
Okay. Well, with that, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Director Waller.
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, so next up, it's the first reading of revised policy DAC, federal fiscal compliance. So,
When you have a moment, I'll
Okay.
just explain really quick why we started
Oh,
looking at that, so.
go for it.
But, did you say?
Oh, no, that's
Okay, okay. So, the uniform grant guidance, which is what the federal government uses for all things governing federal funds, was updated last year. And they made some kind of major changes that they haven't made in like 10 years that actually are truly an improvement for the end user, meaning, the recipients of the funds. And but in order to really be able to take advantage of those easements that they put in place, we have to match our internal policies with the UGG, because otherwise we have to adhere to our policies, even if theirs are more lenient. So the main changes for that were, first of all, one thing that's positive is the audit threshold was increased from 750,000 to $1 million. So that means any funds we receive that are below $1 million, we don't have to have single audits on it, which is great for a small district especially. And then the big one that basically kind of affected a lot of these updates, that's the main reference point, is that the equipment is now defined as a single purchase with a unit cost of 10,000 or more. It used to be 5,000. So if we change our policy to also have that threshold at 10,000, it means we're not gonna have to capitalize at anything that's below 10,000. We don't have to do all the inventory requirements that normally are necessary for anything that's capitalized. And it would just be, you know, obviously help us a lot when we have to track and, you know, inventory, or if there are supplies we bought that we end up not using, anything below 10,000, you don't have to worry about selling and returning. So, so that's behind these kind of changes. And the reason we brought them now is because if we have this in place before July 1, we can use the new threshold for the whole next school year.
Mhm.
If we don't change it before July 1, then we have to stick with the 5,000, and it just creates a lot of extra paperwork, so. That's the
Completely
background.
understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that, I move to approve the first reading of revised policy DAC, federal fiscal compliance.
Second.
Do you want any of the, do you want all of these brought back? If there's any that you feel like just first and final, we just need to make sure that's in the, if you want these brought back, we can, so it's just your choice. If you do first and final, then it's approved, we amend the date.
Let's go one at a time, but this one, the only change is from
Yeah.
a title of Director of
Yeah.
Finance to District Financial Leader.
More
Yeah.
generic.
So
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
first and final on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was, the thought was just then you're not constantly having to change it.
Yeah.
You know, if the title changes.
If the
then
title changes,
it
yeah,
doesn't
exactly, because it's
warrant
just,
a change, yeah.
yeah, like, that makes sense.
Complete sense. Okay, so, I want to amend my motion to approve, to read that, I move to approve the first and final reading of revised policy DAC, federal fiscal compliance.
Second.
And any more discussion on that? Okay, all right. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. So next up, we have the first reading of revised policy DID inventories. And again, this talks about the 5K considered, you know, the capital threshold and extending that over to 10. I'm debating, should we just make this a first and final as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with the language.
Okay. So I want to, I move to approve the first and final reading of revised policy DID inventories.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? All right, can I get a roll call?
Just a quick,
Oh,
just
yeah.
a point of order, like,
Uh-huh.
what is the difference between blue and red there?
It's who edits it and when you track changes. So
Okay.
I've probably edited it based on Casbier class, and Rebecca and Francisca at the time edited it, so
Okay,
their
it's
color
just-
changes for
So
track
it's just
changes.
a track change,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Is it, I mean, usually red is fled, blue is new. That's-
Red is just typically the first person's
Yeah.
tracks.
Got it, okay.
Okay, so can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Any issues with making this a first and final?
10.8.
The next one,
Mhm.
10.8.
DIE.
DIE, audits and financial monitoring.
We actually just went through the process of selecting an auditor, and we actually followed this. We did an RFP, we interviewed, in fact, was involved in that process. Mike sat in as your representative, so this actually aligns now with the changes with the process that we've used.
I think first and final stuff.
Yeah. I just see minor verbiage changes. I don't see any issues with that, so, okay.
You're good with it?
So I move to approve the first and final reading of revised policy DIE, audits, financial monitoring.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Aye.
Okay. So, I'm just gonna go through these and ask if y'all wanna make them a final. Because, this next one, revised, policy DJA, purchasing and purchasing authority. So, I move to approve the first and final reading of revised policy DJA, purchasing authority.
Second.
Okay. Now, this is the one I had a question on. So you mentioned we have a monthly process, a monthly reconciliation process for P cards. So does that involve, like, you know, I know where I work, if you make a purchase, you have to have a copy of your receipt, you've got to have your reallocation vote, all of that good stuff. And then someone reviews it and signs off on it every
Yeah,
month.
so,
goes through a
exactly,
chain.
so, and anybody using the P card has to have signed the P card agreement,
Mhm.
so that has to be in place.
And then a second level supervisor
So
or
it
manager?
it's an electronic process,
Okay.
cause it goes through Skyward.
Oh, okay.
And then when the P card invoice comes to accounts payable,
Mhm.
she goes in and uploads all of the invoices into Skyward, and then each user that is the account holder of that P card, goes in and sees all their P card charges in there, and then you have to go in, upload the receipt that goes with it, put an explanation of what the purchase was, the account it will be charged to, and then once that's all entered, it goes to that person's supervisor, and then they give the final okay, and then and then it goes back to accounts payable, and that's kinda like the final, you know, she will make sure one more time that everything is in there that needs to be in there. So there's several spots where it gets caught if something is missing.
And it's itemized.
And then, yeah, it's,
Oh, awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
In departments who I supervise, I then get to see the P card transactions, so the supervisor and then the supervisor's supervisor, I believe, is
Yeah.
the current.
And then there
track.
are limits too on the amount in a one-time purchase. Is it 3,500? I think it's 3,500
Yes.
and 5,000 aggregate for the whole month.
Okay.
So if somebody has to use the P card for a larger purchase, it first has to get approved and raised
Okay,
to a higher amount.
so you just, so the language that's in this says purchasing card transactions cannot exceed 5,000 in a single transaction unless prior approval has been received.
I think it is
So
5,000.
was that, you just said something about 3,500?
Well,
or
maybe
5,000
I had
total?
that wrong.
Okay.
The
It's
5,000
5,000.
is what's, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
thought there was another amount too, but
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't remember.
The highest limit is 5,000,
5,000.
and
In a
so
single
you can't,
transaction.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't have enough room on the P card to purchase something over 5,000, it would actually reject it.
It's kind of a limit on
Yeah.
the card.
And some
per
people
month.
have lower limits,
Yeah.
I think, it just depends.
Yeah, for some departments, it might get lowered because maybe they never need, you know, they have no reason to spend that much. Or it could also be, if somebody was overspending, it might get lowered too, so.
Okay.
they're different.
All right, that answers my question.
We do receive a rebate on purchasing cards, and so there are times where we will authorize someone to use a P card for a purchase over 5,000. It just requires permission, and then it requires Jason to actually change the limit on their card for that transaction. Justin.
I've got a tally in the
I was
office,
gonna
so
say,
put a dollar.
charge me
Where's
$1
your
for every
name
time I do that.
You're gonna give me
I'll
some
be broke
initials.
by the end of the meeting today. Sorry, Justin.
So if they need to buy a $50,000 server.
It's not going on a P card.
Yeah,
Okay, so
unless.
y'all do like purchase orders for that?
Yeah,
Okay.
purchase orders. There could be some occasions where it would be to our advantage, but again, they'd have to call and get permission, and it'd have to be researched as to why. So we do get a rebate on our use of P cards, so we get a percentage kickback. So if something like that, if that company will allow us to purchase it with a P card, most of them won't because of the charge fee that goes along with it. But where that can, sometimes it's advantageous, but they just have to get permission first.
Okay.
So.
Any further discussion? Okay, all right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Director Waller.
Aye.
And that's first and final too, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
first and final.
Good.
So next up is revised policy DJB, federal procurement. I move to approve the first and final reading of revised policy DJB, federal procurement.
Second.
Okay.
And this is the one I corrected for you, Mary?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and
Yes.
this
I
one,
asked
I,
Francis.
Thank you.
yeah, I noted verbiage changes. It looks like the cost levels increased, like 3,500 to
From
10K.
3,500 to 10,000.
Yeah, it's quite some ranges,
Yeah.
but. Okay,
Now, and that doesn't mean that, you know, you wouldn't be part of that, like anything that has to go to a bid
yeah.
has to be signed by the board anyway, so, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't change our bid policy.
Yeah.
Our bid
Okay.
policy remains.
So this all, I mean, this one obviously has more changes than the others, but a whole block's put out and then a whole new block put in. So this all came from what?
From the, you know, changing it to 10,000.
But
Yeah.
where,
The language from class to CASB.
Oh, the
So-
language came from, yeah.
Well, you can look, I made a note here on the right.
Part is
So
from-
class
yeah.
policy did not include the federal requirements, so they
Oh.
hadn't updated theirs yet. And
Okay.
So
so
that's why
we
we
will
took
not
it.
adopt their policy at this time. We adopted CASB's revisions, I believe.
And CASB's align them with the new grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are some we chose class instead of
We
CASB
always
because
kinda
it
look at
better
both, yeah.
Yeah.
At this point,
suited in
yeah.
combination
Right.
sometimes.
right, okay.
All right, any further discussion on this one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
No.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Okay, so next up, we have the review of policy DI fiscal accounting. So with this one, we have the opportunity to do a first and final as well. So I move that the board approve the first and final reading of the policy DI fiscal accounting.
It looks like, Fran,
It's a
that
review.
this is just updating
Mhm.
the policy, because there's no changes on it.
Yeah,
So
we just,
We
we
have-
figured since we're looking at all of these, we might as well put the new date, like that it was reviewed.
Mhm.
So, you know, so then in future years, you know, they were all looked
Okay.
at the same. So that was the only reason we did it.
So it's a review date, it's not a modification
The
date.
next one is as well.
Did you make the motion?
Yeah.
Second?
Okay, any further discussion on that one? All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Okay, next up is 1012, which is the review of regulation DJB-R federal procurement. So I move that the board approve the first and final reading of the reviewed policy DJB-R federal procurement.
Second?
Now, I had a question on this one. So when you look under the additional standards, is step one still required given recent actions by government? Is that still a CASB or a class recommendation?
Well, these were compared to both. I don't remember off the top of my head if this was CASB's. I know whatever, my guess if
feel
it's
like
legally
those-
required, we
I
compared
feel like
it.
those were very similar, weren't they?
Well, they would have been exact or we would have
Yeah.
had red line.
I was just curious.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can
I-
double check it if you want.
Well, and, you know, if that's the case, we can come back and do another revision. I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't remember if they all, but if it's legally required, so DJB, well, actually, the asterisk, yes, so it's a CASB policy because there's an asterisk
Mhm.
at the top, otherwise that just means it's not in the I can't think of the name of the thing, but when it's just a CASB policy, there's an asterisk.
Okay, all right.
It's like the N, you know what I'm
Yep,
talking about, I
yep,
can't think of the
yep,
acronym.
yeah.
Okay, well, we can,
So this would have,
National Association.
yeah, this would have followed CASB,
okay.
or I would have had it.
And again, this is just review and the date, so,
Right, just so
review
the
date,
date.
so. All right, so any further discussion? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
And next up, we have the first reading of replacement policy DJE bidding procedures. Do you want to make this a first and final? Or first?
Looks like it's mainly just changing the numbers
The
again,
numbers,
looks
yeah.
like, and
Okay.
We're good
making
with
things a
that.
little more generic, so yeah.
Okay, so I move to approve the first and final reading of replacement policy DJE bidding procedures.
Second.
Okay, and I had a question on this one. So why are we removing all construction-related items? It just looked like everything was scratched out as far as construction.
Yeah, and I can't remember, I think that was just one thing we noticed.
This is
in
used in the event we want
Yeah.
a separate threshold for construction, which we do not. And those
Okay.
were Rebecca's notes at the time.
Okay.
So I don't, she was on Zoom that day. I don't
Right,
remember honestly
right.
why we did it that way.
I think it was just that we didn't want it to have, if we have it in there, then we have to use the separate threshold, and we didn't want that to be the
Okay.
case.
Where, and it may be because of the auto
Okay.
shop and all the things we've done with
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So
But-
construction just falls in.
Falls under the.
Yeah, it doesn't
Same
it doesn't
It's like
exempt
it's-
it or change the
It's not a
values.
separate category of
Okay.
procurement.
And this was a replacement because after comparing to, I'm not sure which policy, CASB or class, we had so many changes. We adopted one of theirs and then made our own changes based on what our practice is.
Because it was basically
Yeah.
redoing the whole thing, yeah.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye, sorry.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Director Waller?
Aye.
Okay.
Phew.
So next up, we have our third quarter financials. Justin, take it away.
Yeah.
See, I said that right.
So these were prepared for, through the middle of the month of March. So these are not a true accurate year, month over month picture. They don't include a lot of the revenue from the second part of March. So therefore, it's not a very good picture of that month, just because of the timing on personnel changes.
This was done by Rebecca Brooks, our prior CFO. I think key that I'll add is we are still waiting for $7.8 million of local revenue, which is collected through property taxes. And so when you look at the column and you look at the fund balance, obviously that's without $7 million of expected revenue and about $2 million of additional state revenue. So third quarters are always a challenge because of when property taxes are collected. And so we did look at these with FAC as well. You do have all of the other funds as well that shows kind of where they are at this point. The one thing I will point out on the People Activity Fund, we have not moved the district funds into our athletics. We're actually waiting. They actually are doing very well this year. And may actually not require the full transfer. So right now they're at $353,000 of expenses, and our budget called for a transfer of $550,000. So we may actually end the year with some positive fund balance.
All right. Well, thank you both for your hard work on this.
We'll get you the updated end of April financials by the next board meeting. We've been working on those today, just did not get those finished before this meeting tonight, so, yeah.
So any question on the third quarter? Okay, you guys ready to move on to the 25-26? Okay.
I can jump in on the 25-26 budget proposal. Justin, I said that right this time? Justin and I worked together. I handed this off to him. Mike and FAC had a chance early the week prior, right? It wasn't last week, it was the week prior to look at. So all of our budgets sheets now have a backup tab for each of the items. So when you look at staff salaries and benefits for any of the schools or any of the departments, there is a backup page that actually shows who that is, what the current salary is, what the increase based upon the steps that are in our salary systems are. And so this document is one that I've given Mike. I haven't given them the most recent, but I will pass on the most recent to Mike so you can see the backup documentation that's going into each of these. The one thing I want to point out on this particular draft of next year's budget is you'll see that we're trying to be a little more granular in our departments and both staffing and expenses. We have not broken out for this year to that degree. So you'll see the one large item that's in blue, that's $3 million of staff. Those actually will be spread out throughout all of those individual departments. We just have not gone through to say, okay, what staff is in that department this year. That's not how we budgeted this year. So we're trying to increase the granularity of our budgeting so that you can see by department staffing and expenses for those departments. In addition, we've asked department heads to give more detail. We caught a couple of those in the FAC meeting where they weren't detailed, so we've set those back to say, give us some more detail on what's included in that. And that certainly is available for any board member. I'm giving it to Mike as your treasurer, but if any board member prior to adoption of this budget in June wants to see that detail, it's there. It's there intentionally because we really want to be very transparent about, you know, where dollars are being spent and who's included in that budget, so that that's available to you as we get closer.
So is the Skyward thing, is that helping with this?
Skyward is helping. Again,
know
as
it's kind of
Justin and I have begun to dig into Skyward, we are moving some things around, and I think that's the other key thing about this, is there were, for instance, copiers were in the utilities budget. The board treasurer, or the treasurer collection fee from the county was in the utilities budget. The collection fee for, we pay the county to collect our taxes, that has always been a board expense in every department I've been in, or in every district I've been in, because the board obviously has that fiscal responsibility of ensuring we're collecting those taxes. And so we are writing some of those assignments. Again, we had this big, remember 3 years ago, this district had this massive district-wide account, and you didn't know what was in there. We're trying to break that out, and through our analysis of looking at what's been in even that utilities and insurance account, there's things that aren't utilities and insurance. And so all school copiers are showing on their school page now, because you're buying a copier for Running Creek, it should be on Running Creek's page. And vice versa for departments who have copiers as well. So that's really the key part of this budget, is really increasing that granularity of here's the department, here's what they're spending, here's what's included in that. And I really think to some degree we're getting to that point where you as a board need to be able to look and say, why are we doing that? And honestly, prior to doing this level of detail, you just saw a big number. And so we're trying to increase that. If you remember, Rebecca brought a package called ClearGov to FAC and to the board. I think in talking with Justin, we don't see a need to move forward with that adoption, so that will actually be an expense that comes out of the business services budget. That was an expense, if you remember, Mike, it was replacing another expense that was dropping off this year. Well, we haven't taken that out yet, but we just decided today that that software is not needed.
I thought when we approved Skyward, because Skyward has the ability to drill down, right? You send it out to the departments, they build their budget, but I thought when we approved that and it got implemented, that the board members were going to get read-only access so we can drill down in there. And I don't think we have yet.
No, and I think as we because again, what we're finding right now, based on how it's been set up, is we'll have the budget on one line and then we have the expenses on 12 other lines. That's something that just doesn't make any sense to us. So we're trying to clean that up through this process, so that when we enter the budget for next year, it'll match this. And you'll actually be able to say, okay, I want to see this department. There's a number for each department. You'll see it off to the side. You know, 610 is curriculum and instruction, 620 is, so you'll be able to, using those numbers actually through read-only access, be able to say, show me what curriculum instruction spending this month. So that's the piece that, as we've kind of dug into the system and the way that our previous CFO set it up, we're having to hunt for expenses. So we have a budget line that shows the money there, but then we have expenses that have no budget. And that's something we're just trying to rectify right now within the system.
So every department, down to the staff level, down to the supplies, I mean, we'll all roll up to the macro line that you'll see. But to go back to every month, every line item, there's no reason to not have that. Here's the, for example, 100 teachers, their salary, their benefit, all that rolls up into one line per school. There's absolutely no reason not to have that.
So we're just trying to now take advantage of having Justin here, kind of cleaning up how we're entering things into Skyward. That's been kind of an education that I've taken on since the departure of our CFO, and trying to look at where are our funds and what are we doing. One of the main things that I do want to point out here, and something the board will need to ultimately authorize, we charge $8 per field trip. This made Justin's mind go. We charge $8 for a field trip, whether that field trip is up to the Stanley Hotel with 10 kids or with a full bus of 60. We charge $8 per kid. The amount of money right now that is being sunk into field trips by the district, meaning it's not being offset through fees, is just, it's major.
It's well into 6 figures.
Yeah. So one of the proposals we're going to bring is that when a field trip is scheduled, based on the number of kids and the number of buses and the number of drivers, is we'll actually cost that out and say, okay, that field trip is $17 per student because of it's going way down to Pueblo versus to the fire station. We charge the same to take a group of kids to the fire station as we do to take kids to Pueblo.
And when you say charge, does that mean,
There's an $8 collection for a field trip.
Parents, yes.
Okay.
So every field trip is $8. It doesn't matter where you're
That doesn't
going.
make sense.
And that just, as we started analyzing the field trips and the costs, I mean, you look at transportation and that budget keeps mushrooming. It's because everything that anyone asks them to do is covered in their budget, whether it should be offset by fees. We've never shown even that $8 we collect per student in the revenue for transportation. So their budget continues to do this, and we really don't track the revenue. So it's something that Justin unearthed last week, and so we'll be coming back to you. Obviously, all fees you must approve. So if we're going to charge more than $8, that needs to come back to you for approval to do that. Again, we don't want field trips to be costed out of line,
Range, but
and
still.
any student who can't afford that, there is provisions in our policy that says no child is denied that experience because their parent can't afford.
Thank you for reading my mind.
So so but still just $8 for any field trip anywhere, regardless of 1,000 miles or 100 miles, exaggerating for effect.
And how we're breaking this out is same thing, fuel, driver, allocation, tires. I mean, this is to the penny on an analysis. Rather I bucket that as to this trip is zone A, B, C, or D level, or $17.22, $13.87. I've yet to determine that, but it is a humongous concern that we have to address. So.
When you take more than 15 kids, you must take a big bus. So if you have 16 kids going on a field trip, you're taking a big bus. You're taking a bus driver who has to be CDL certified. The cost of that trip have just mushroomed. So again, we just feel like we need to go through the process of not just saying, oh, $8, great, we're going down
And then we don't
to
even account for
Albuquerque.
it.
Yeah. It just has gone into general fund, and so, in all due fairness, even athletics, we have not broken that out yet, but all athletic trips, whether they're postseason play, all of that's charged to transportation. So transportation's budget, if we have a really good season where we have lots of postseason play, transportation's budget goes like this. They go over budget, and it looks like shame on you for poor planning, instead of athletics really capturing the cost of what it costs us as a district to operate our athletics program. And so our plan before this is approved is to actually pull out those trips for our sports teams and actually show that in the athletics budget, because obviously we should know what it costs to run our athletics program, and they're important programs. But right now, it looks like it doesn't cost us anything, and it costs us a lot.
And we all know that doesn't work out, right?
Where's the salaries for the drivers then, just in transportation now, even when?
Everything's in
Because I went
transportation.
to a kid's track meet the other day, and they had to be at school at 6:45, and we didn't get done there until 6 p.m. And I'm like, that driver is just sitting there getting paid that whole time?
They get paid, they get paid the entire time they're away. If it's an overnight trip, they don't get paid the entire time. They get paid to the time they get there. Their lodging is paid for, but they're not paid overnight to sleep.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. And sometimes we have to send two drivers, because drivers
If it's over
can't.
hours,
Yeah.
then it's two drivers.
Yeah, they can't. So when we go down to Pagosa for a football game or a soccer game, we have to send two drivers, because a driver
the
can only
hours
drive a certain amount of time. So.
So that analysis is coming.
Well, good job finding that.
So this is
Yeah. Jason.
Yeah.
Paul.
Jason.
Hey, there's Paul.
Just call him
We're just
Bob.
gonna call him Jay.
That would be easier. So anyways, this is a first draft. Next meeting, we will publish probably a week in advance the actual current draft budget, which will be more granular, more detailed than where we are right now. That will be a public budget hearing, so during your public input, it'll be advertised that anyone in the community that wants to comment on the district budget can do so. That will be posted on the website. That's required by law that we do a public budget hearing so that citizens can respond to any of the budget expenditures. Obviously, we've got to get this out where people can see it so they can then comment on it.
Good.
Okay. We are working on our fund balance. We are not as high as we want to be here, but we also believe there's probably still some expenses that are being reflected that are funded through other sources, and so we are working right now on trying to, actually it didn't copyright, we're missing that page. I'm missing the second page of the general fund budget. I just realized that. Okay. So this right now gets us up to in between 6 and 7%. And so we want to be at 7% as our goal for next
And
year.
you were conservative with enrollment?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're showing no growth whatsoever
Got it.
in this year's budget. So we actually took actual numbers that we are now, which is less than October count. We're budgeting based on where we're sitting right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we have right now 40 new students registered at Singing Hills for next year. We actually haven't even included them yet because we, again, we don't want to go through a fiscal exigency. We'd rather add that and then have those funds to reallocate next year.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Any further questions for Jay?
This is gonna
You didn't know you were gonna be
follow
late,
me.
did you?
All right. Well, you can leave the hot seat.
Both of me?
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Okay, so next up is the Independence Classical Academy Charter School Extension.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Commissioner? I want to just share a little, I know we've had lots of community input on all sides of this issue. I want to make sure people understand why we started this whole charter initiative. This was not something that just came out of the blue. This was something the district recognized that we are not going to pass a bond in this community. I think we've been told clearly, Kai was tried twice. It just, the likelihood of right now with the Financial Times to get voters, 4/5 of which don't have children in our district, to vote for a $700 a year increase to their taxes is slim to none.
Exactly.
And so we started this recognizing that right now the demographers are projecting 1,000 new students in the next 7 years. That's based upon, obviously we've seen interest rates slow that down a little bit, but we know right now the number of home sites that are ready to build on are many in this community. And I met with another developer last week that's doing a 1,900 home community up near Sun Country. So in addition to Crescents, which is almost 3,000 homes. So the reality is, as a district, we either admire the problem and say, poor us, we can't build schools. We're going to have 400 kids in a classroom, exaggerating for effect, but we don't have the ability right now to build a school. Districts that I've run in the past have always looked at charters as two options. One is a great choice to bring additional choice and options, which we've heard from some of our speakers tonight, which we value. I think the board has demonstrated that through your actions. But that we also know that a charter school has the ability to do a conventional mortgage on a construction project, which we don't. The only way we as a board can impart a building project is to have a bond approved by the citizens. A charter school can, within the funds that they earn for students who attend their school, do a conventional mortgage have a investor build a building, eventually lease it, and eventually buy it. That building, obviously, if that charter school ever went defunct, that building reverts back to the school district, especially in this case where the land is our land. And so, just to be very clear to this community, this isn't just a choice charter. This is a charter needed for capacity. We must have capacity in our district in the near future. Again, if 40 more students arrive at Singing Hills, we will be out of rooms at Singing Hills next year. And so we don't have lots of rooms to just continue to add more kids in the existing buildings. And so when we think about this, I know there's two options. There's choice. Some people are pro-choice, some people aren't pro-choice for school choice, I should say. But then there's the issue of capacity. And as a district, one of my greatest concerns has been making sure we don't end up with class sizes of 40 because we have no other building to put them in. And so we started this initiative to number one, find out what type of charter school our community was interested in. We heard loud and clear classical. Then we started working to work with a community group like we have here tonight to say, okay, now how can you do that for us, and how can you ultimately be prepared to build on our land? And we have 15-acre site at Independence. We have a 5-acre site there as well that we hope someday to do early childhood on. So all of this is really part of our plan to address future growth in the district. So it's not just a choice option, it's a necessity for us if we're going to meet the demands of population in our community. And so we also have, just to be very clear, we've also said no family will be forced into a choice option. We started this year transporting for legacy. We will transport for any charter in this district because we want parents who find that to be the right school to be able to take advantage of it regardless of where they live. And so that's really important to this effort that we started as a team here to say, you know, this is a necessity. Obviously, opening a charter school is tough. I've done 7 of them myself, and sometimes you're successful the first year and sometimes you're not. And so our group has certainly worked hard this year to try to find a solution. And obviously that's what we're up against tonight is not being able to have a site for this year. We've had lots of things work against us. Frontier facility having some unexpected roof failures, things like that. And so we need a charter school. I'm going to say that out loud publicly. And anyone in the community who wants to talk about that, please schedule time with me. We need a charter school if we're not going to overload all of our schools in the district. Legacy is looking at expanding their capacity, which takes care of this side of the district. But we have no more room at Singing Hills. And so that's really key as we talk about this, just to put that on the record. It's not just about do we want a charter school or not, it's do we want space for another 1,000 kids down the road, or do we want to cram them into what exists? And I don't believe that's a good option. So just wanted to make sure.
Well, I thank you for that, because I think we just need to remind our community that it was really our idea to start with, because we need to do this. We have to have this, and we can't, you know, all of a sudden have, you know, 300 extra students and we have no place to put them. This is something you have to plan ahead for. So that is, this is kind of what we're doing. But another thing that people seem to have been concerned about is, well, we're doing all this with our charter school and we're working, you know, with them, and we'll talk in a little bit about, you know, the various location options and things that we have discussed with y'all. But people seem to think that we are, you know, we need to concentrate on our own schools. We are. I mean, last week there was a presentation at our middle school by our new principal there, Tam Smith. Wonderful, wonderful person and wonderful ideas, and he's calling it Elizabeth Medical School. We've got a medical school, just so y'all know.
That too.
Wow, that's a whole other thing. We need some other policies. Elizabeth Middle School 2.0 is what he's calling it, because we have had some concerns there. We've had some issues there, but he's got some amazing plans going forward. So we are working on that. We are also have been working on policies that show how we recognize the problem of so many kids not coming out of, you know, from elementary into middle school and beyond can't read. And we have policies that are now in place that are, you know, we are not going to, we are gonna be looking seriously at holding back children who are not ready, who are at least 2 years behind. We are not going to promote them on because we're just setting them up for failure. So and those are just kind of, you know, some not small things. Those are big things that we're working on. We've got the direct instruction consultant that's coming in and training our teachers, and kind of that, and getting back to kind of real direct and explicit instruction, I guess is what it's called. And so that's an exciting thing. We are doing lots of things in our own schools, and we want them to be the best. I mean, that's what we are here for. Yeah. And we want, like you said, the choices are each of the charter schools. We also support homeschoolers. We do that in our district. But we want our local district schools to be an absolute best choice too. So we want all of that. So I want people to hear that we are not neglecting our own schools because of this charter school application. So I want everybody to recognize that. And I don't know if you want to kind of get into the location
Let me
options.
just, you know, everyone says, but our parents want to build schools. Our parents are we have 2,600 students, we have 12,499 voters in this district. So think about the disparity there, people who are saying, am I going to give you $700 for another school? The reality is the number of voters far outweigh the number of parents. And so we often think, well, because our parents are excited about building a school, somehow that bond is going to pass.
Yeah.
Even if every parent in our district voted for it, the likelihood of it passing is slim to none. So it's really critical people understand that's where this started. The choice of Independence Classical Academy and the charter came from lots of visits to lots of charter schools in the state of Colorado, and finding that that's the charter that is one of the highest performing schools in the state of Colorado that we're trying to replicate. So again, I think it's just important that people understand what started this. This started because if we don't build a school, parents are going to be on our backs in a year or two when there's 40 kids in a class.
Exactly.
And so we can either get ahead of this and begin to support a charter option, or we face overcrowding.
Right. So. And I've heard in 2 or 3 different versions tonight from people talking about, you know, how charter schools, it's not like, you know, snap your fingers and there it is. It takes a lot of work, and you all have done a lot of amazing work. It takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of pulling stuff together. And there's, you know, many of them, it sounds like, that, you know, can't necessarily start the year that they had hoped to. So this is not unusual. This is not something to say, oh, told you it wasn't going to work. No, this is not uncommon. And so we got to remember that.
Well, and one thing to consider too is that it's not just, we have another charter school, we have Legacy. And this district helped Legacy get off the ground by supplying them with a location behind Running Creek. So, you know, they weren't in it alone. It's dang near impossible for a school to come in and do it without partnering with the district.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I saw a few emails and then potentially maybe 1 or 2 public comment about the district struggling financially. We don't need a charter school. And I think we need to clear up that the district isn't building the charter school. We're not paying for any of that. The only money the district is out is when the charter school's up and running, we give the state and local funds for the per pupil revenue to that charter school to operate.
With some withholding for
With some withholding for overhead costs, correct.
Yeah, we use the pass through.
Or again, if they leave the district, we get nothing.
We
So,
get nothing.
you know, we're providing a choice, we're helping prevent overcrowding in the classrooms, and I honestly think this is gonna bring in homeschool students, and I think it's gonna bring in students from neighboring counties.
Yeah, which we wouldn't have had at all, any revenue from.
So it could end up being a huge benefit.
Yeah.
This isn't just a choice, it's an excellent choice.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So,
So I think ICA wanted to do a presentation.
Yeah, do you want to come up and speak, or give you a couple minutes to address the board before we vote on it? Thank you for waiting so long.
Yeah.
It's past my bedtime, I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm gonna start to turn yellow here in a minute.
Well, good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to address the Elizabeth School Board, Superintendent, and community members. My name is Candy Putch, and I am the board chair, and along with me is Ken Madsen, the board treasurer of Independence Classical Academy. Unlike most charter schools, like Dan was just saying, they have their beginning with parents and community members that want to bring a different school model to their area. Independence Classical Academy, or ICA, began as a district-led initiative. Since its inception, ICA has been a partnership between the Elizabeth School District and the charter school. ICA appreciates the collaboration and support that we have and enjoy with the Elizabeth School District. Specifically, the Elizabeth board members, as well as Superintendent Snowberger, have been instrumental in this process by providing needed guidance and material support through the district leadership, communication, maintenance, safety and security, and technology teams. With the district's mandate to get ICA up and running, a significant amount of money, over $100,000, has been invested in ICA, including $75,000 from a Daniels Fund startup grant and over $35,000 invested from Academica, our educational service provider. The ICA board has accomplished branding, website, marketing, and administrative setup, received bids for Frontier building renovations, and hired a wonderful headmaster, Mrs. Jessica Turner. Mrs. Turner has lesson plans located onto the computer, curriculum, desks, and materials ready to order, and staff training scheduled. Right after being hired, Mrs. Turner started interviewing for office and staff positions and was also ready to make offers of employment. In March, ICA was in the process of beginning renovations to the Frontier Center, as ICA's investors had approved over $150,000 in funds to ready the facility for use. With the roof under warranty and the Frontier building having received a couple of inspections, the roof was not even our concern. On March 25th, we received an email letting us know that there was a roofing problem and ICA was restricted from using the Frontier building, instructed to return our access badges and remove all of our materials from the premises. Our recent request for an extension is as a result of a set of unforeseen circumstances beyond our control and an inadequate amount of time to assess the roof repair costs or to secure an alternative school location. If granted, the one-year time extension would allow the ICA board to receive and review the roof cost repair estimates, as well as explore opportunities for alternative school locations such as commercial real estate options and temporarily using modulars at the Running Creek or Independence site.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ken Madsen. I'm one of the founding board members of Independence Classical Academy. Consistent since day one, all ICA board members have supported bringing on a high-quality classical school option to the Elizabeth School District and the surrounding communities. ICA is modeling after Liberty Commons School in Fort Collins. Last year, Liberty Commons School was ranked #1 in the state based on high school SAT scores. Their high school has over a 300 student waiting list. Their classical core knowledge, curriculum, and teaching techniques has time-proven positive results. We have and we will continue to work closely with Liberty Commons School to benefit from their experience in delivering a high-quality education to students. We believe, in addition to obviously attracting some students from the district, we also believe ICA will attract a significant number of students who live out of the district, students who live in the district but go to school out of the district, and homeschoolers. As an example, we had a family with 3 children who lived in Castle Rock who were willing to drive their children to downtown Elizabeth to obtain the classical education offered by ICA. ICA was fully and ready to open in the 2025-26 school year. We hired a headmaster who focused much of her career in classical education. We're very lucky to have Jessica Turner leading ICA. Just like we were ready to open in the 2025-26 school year until the unexpected roof issues were uncovered at the Frontier Center, we will be ready for the 2026-27 school year. We are working on multiple options for a temporary facility. One of the options is of particular interest because it would benefit both ICA and the Elizabeth School District. ICA has already been working with the Elizabeth School District on this proposal. We are very excited to team up on this project. The children in our community deserve a high-performing classical school option. The ICA board, along with ICA parents, request a one-year extension so we can bring a high-performing model to life in Elizabeth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Dan and I had a meeting with Ken a week or so ago, and Ken alluded to the option a little bit, but the option for a location that most of us that we're most excited about, I think both sides of the aisle are very excited about this, is as Dan had talked about earlier, the property at Independence, where the charter school is going to be located. The charter school itself will be on the 15-acre plot, but there's an additional 5-acre plot which we intend to eventually use as a infant toddler center for the Independence area. And because Delbert Road has now been, it's pretty close to being cut through, now we know that it's a possibility to have that be the location that they are working toward. And we would bring in 2 modulars that we have from the Elizabeth Middle School. They would bring them in, and then we would pay for bathrooms to be installed in them because we would eventually use them for the infant toddler childhood center that we want to do. But then, other than that, that would be our basically only expense. You guys would be paying for the move. And then also you found some sources for some other modulars that are going to be very cost effective, it sounds like. So you're working on arranging that as we speak, I think. And so bringing a couple of additional modulars over there. The developer is going to be bringing power kind of up to the site, and then ICA will bring the power to the buildings, to the modulars. And then eventually, of course, it will be brought to the main school. So this is a wonderful solution. There's logistics and permitting here and there and different things, but it is an exciting choice that I think is kind of the top choice that we are kind of looking at this point. And ICA is doing most of the legwork. There's some stuff, of course, that the district has to do, but ICA is doing most of the legwork and working all that out. So we're very excited about that. If, because we don't know how long those modulars that you found will last, so to speak, Dan has offered that either if the property, the 5 acres, will allow us to bring them there and store them for now until you're ready to install and actually kind of get the ball rolling. That is a possibility, or we may store them on some of the back areas of some of our other
We've got other district properties, so we can store them.
So there's just a lot of very wonderful progress that has been made in that regard. If that doesn't work somehow or the other, Running Creek is probably the next best option. And so that, because there, as I think you said it, Rhonda, that property back there's some area where there's some modulars back there, and that was the area where Legacy, the district had supported Legacy back there by having some modulars back there. So there's already utilities and stuff back there. So that would be the next best option. The other options are mostly pretty much off the table. Singing Hills is definitely off the table. Frontier is not likely to really come through because there's just a lot of expense that's, how we're gonna work that out, we're not, that's a whole other issue. But, there is no concern about taking any interior space from any of our schools anymore. That is off the table.
I waited for 3 hours to hear that.
Hallelujah.
You should have emailed me.
Shoot.
Well, clearly I don't understand the process of how to talk. Because I've been sitting here for 3 hours like, oh my God.
Well, I'm glad we finally got there for you.
Yeah,
so,
no, and I
yes,
just want to
so.
really fast and I'm talking, reassure you, Tyler, don't pull me out of here. Reassure you as a community, like, I don't, in my opinion, and I'm pretty well versed into the community, don't feel like it was, that we didn't want it. I think when it ultimately, when Frontier became not
available, yeah, for nobody's,
like, well,
nobody's
hold on,
fault.
don't step on these toes and don't step on these toes, and I mean, I know immediately, I was like, I'll start a petition. We're not having other kids come into our lunchroom, our, or in our campus, like, not only is that like, kinda odd, but it almost brings up a bullying thing too. Now we got like kids coming through with uniforms and like, just, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
There's all sorts of issues.
But,
so
yeah.
So in general, the community, I don't really feel like was against it.
So anyway, so that is off the
Yeah,
table. So no
But
internal.
let's get back to topic, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no internal classrooms anywhere. So, that is good. So it's modulars, hopefully on the 5-acre property, backup at RCA if necessary.
And
Those are the-
behind RC, so I
And
want to make
behind
that
RC,
very
Where
clear.
Legacy,
yeah.
where Legacy was originally,
Yeah.
there's
So
already
behind
hookups.
there, yeah, exactly, thank you. So those are, the things, I think that really responds to most of the concerns, the issues that people have brought up. We're not abandoning our schools, we're taking care of them. We have an absolute reason we need this charter, we need to plan now for the future, for this growth that we know is gonna be here, and we're gonna have all those babies that are in Independence, the Sterling Brigade people are gonna be coming to school soon. And, no internal classrooms, the 5 acres hopefully, RCE as a backup. And as Mike said, no real cost to the district that won't be useful to us later, at least, like the bathroom in the modulars, because we're gonna use it eventually for, infant toddler. So, it's a win-win, and it's an exciting thing.
Yeah.
Dates involved? Or just
Yes.
discuss dates?
So,
Well, she can do that when she makes the motion.
Okay.
To amend, she'll amend that.
yeah, I guess, I don't have any other comments unless somebody else does.
We're ready for the motion.
I'm good.
Okay.
Ready for the motion. If I have further discussion after that, I can chime in.
So, do I make the amendments to it first and then move to amend to move to?
You might want to read the resolution
Yeah.
just into the record.
Okay.
And
That'd
you've
be
got,
good.
you've got
Okay.
some changes, so why don't you read it,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
All right, so we have a resolution with regard to this request for extension. So resolution regarding Independence Classical Academy. The Board of Education remains committed to serving the students of the district by continuing to support the opening of Independence Classical Academy as a charter school within the district, whose focus is providing a rigorous classical education in the liberal arts, math, and sciences, with instruction in the 2024, and it executed a space lease with ICA on January 17, 2025, to allow it to use a portion of the Frontier Center located at 589 South Banner Street, Elizabeth, Colorado. And the Board of Education further acknowledges that unanticipated roof damage was recently discovered at the Frontier Center, which has caused questions about whether students can be safely educated in that building in the 2025-26 school year. And given those questions, Independence Classical Academy requested a 1-year extension on its charter, planning to open now for the 26-27 school year. Therefore, we, the members of the board, resolve to extend the charter of Independence Classical Academy for 1 year, with the goal that it would open as a charter school serving students in grades K through 8 in fall 2026, subject to the following conditions. ESD and ICA execute a charter contract by March 15th, 2026. ICA provides evidence of a suitable temporary facility acquired via lease or purchase, including available square footage, estimated cost through the term of the agreement, and detail regarding any escalating costs no later than February 28th, 2026. If, this is a kind of an extra piece that we're going to add. If no other suitable facility is available, the land behind Running Creek Elementary, where the previous charter was housed, will be made available to temporarily house ICA. ICA provides evidence by February 28th, 2026 that its temporary facility has met or will meet within a reasonable time frame all the requirements to receive its certificate of occupancy so that it can serve students for the fall of 2026. ICA provides evidence by 4/30/26 that it will be financially viable. This evidence shall include documentation to show that ICA has been awarded the Colorado Charter School Program, CCSP grant, or a suitable replacement, and evidence of sufficient enrollment to ensure financial viability as reasonably determined by both the ESD, BOE, and the ICA Charter Board of Directors, and a budget that demonstrates financial viability for ICA based upon reasonable and achievable assumptions for the school years 2026-27 and 2027 through 28. Charter approval remains for grades K through 8. ESD will provide a streamlined application process so that ICA may apply to expand to also serve grades 9 through 12 once it is ready to do so. ESD and ICA both remain committed to ICA eventually establishing a long-term facility on the western side of the district by means of ESD leasing property to ICA at favorable rates. For example, $1 per year for a 30-year ground lease, so that ICA can serve students in that part of the district. The ESD superintendent and the ICA school leader will be responsible for the continued implementation, oversight, monitoring, review, execution, and accountability of the ICA plan. Adopted and approved this 5th day of May 2025.
Will you point out what specific things were amended in that?
So the amendments from the original draft that we received are that addition of the statement that if it doesn't work out the other suitable facility, that the RCE space behind will be available to you. And then the other thing, we made a later out date on one of our things. ICA provides evidence by 4/30/26 that it will be financially viable. Originally, we had that same February 28th date in there, but we thought that that was a little short, so we wanted you to have a little bit more time on that. So.
Good job.
Now I need a drink.
Now we need a motion to
Oh.
approve the resolution.
So I move that we approve the resolution regarding Independence Classical Academy to extend their charter to open for the 2026-27 school year. And the resolution is as just read into the record.
Second.
Who's second?
Dave.
All right, any further discussion? Okay.
I think the backup is really, I mean, it kind of makes this more of a certainty, having that backup.
All right, well, with that, can we get a roll call?
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Director Waller.
Congratulations.
Now get to work. No.
You got 2 more hours to midnight.
All right. Well, with that, any planning new business? Okay. All right. Our next official board meeting should.
It'll be a special board meeting.
Okay.
So, yeah.
May 19th, 2025 in the Boardroom District Office. And with that, I adjourn this meeting at 9:08.
Thank you.